So Arsenal travel to Lyon on Sunday with work to do, but perhaps unlike another London side in the Champions League semi-finals, they are still in the tie going into the second leg. Arsenal 1, Lyon 2 at the Emirates Stadium on Sunday. We'll touch on the game for the majority of this podcast. But Izzy, I think we've got to start with our new print edition of the Gooner fanzine, the second one that the Gooners put out, dedicated to Arsenal women. Now, I'm stopping by Leif's because we both live in the same town. I'm going to stop by his and pick up a load of copies tomorrow that I can sell and read and give out to people. So you've got your hands on it already. Firstly, great to see that hit the streets again. I couldn't be there on Saturday, but really pleased to see everyone's pictures and everyone getting their Gooners.
Yeah, it was really good. I saw quite a few of them around because obviously it's such a sort of cool, bright front cover, very eye-catching. So it was easy to spot. And I had it on the desk next to me in the media room beforehand, and had quite a few people come over to ask about it and have a quick flick through when they weren't busy. And a few people asking me where they could get one after the game as well. So it was obviously kind of in high demand. And yeah, bumped into Leith before selling it at Arsenal Tube, and there seemed to be lots of people around who were queuing up to get their copy. So yeah, really exciting and just another great step forward in the kind of journey of Arsenal women and the Gooner.
And thank goodness Arsenal got to the semi-finals because I was on the train earlier and I thought, how I never know quite when the season ends because the non-league season seems to end really early. Premier League goes on a bit longer. You've then got your cup finals and everything. Champions League finals always seems to go, for a fair while yet. Arsenal have only got a few games left. They've one home game left, and that's against Manchester United on the final day of the season. So the season's come to quite a quick end. I think I'm going to be at every game. I'm certainly at Villa away, hoping to be at Brighton away, obviously at Lyon away this weekend. But suddenly, like blinking, you miss it. The season's done. So really important that we could get the Gooner out for Saturday to make sure that everyone who was at Arsenal Lyon could get their hands on it. You were there. We'll touch on the game, but I'd love to start with the presser as well. You were at open training and the press conference on Friday. Myself and Leif are going to be there this Friday as well, so we'll have the usual coverage. Firstly, what was the mood like, sort of around not just Renee and Mariana who you spoke to, but in that training session and around the club as well?
Yeah, it was good. I think there was a couple of question marks over Chloe Kelly and Alessia Russo, so that was kind of who I had my eye on for looking out at training. But it was a really nice sunny day, very busy because the men were doing a press conference there that day as well, and they also had training. So there was lots of sort of buzz around the media room, and then we went over to watch training from a different angle this time. So I quite enjoyed that, different content and stuff. We were a bit closer to them because the grass wasn't being redone this time. So that was good. Got some good content. Spotted Russo with all the strapping on her knee and Chloe Kelly doing her warm up on her own as well. So it was looking a bit worrying, but yeah, then sort of managed to get that good news out that they were looking ready. The press conference as well was good. I sort of like to touch on Mariona as well because I know she's been quite reluctant to kind of do these press conferences all season and because of her English, and she seems to have worked really hard. And I thought she was really, really good in the press conference on Friday. She was giving some good insight into Lyon and her experience in the Champions League because obviously she's done it all before with Barcelona quite a few times. And so, yeah, I thought it was really interesting to be able to speak to her and sort of people asking about her time in England and time at Arsenal, and she seems to be enjoying herself. But there was a vibe of positivity and definitely nerves as well. But I mean, the last time I was there was before the comeback for Real Madrid, so there was a lot more nerves that day almost than this because this was a bit of a blank slate. But yeah, really good day, and obviously everyone was in a good mood because of the men's result in the week as well. So there was a sort of happy vibe in the press room.
Yeah, I remember really hoping that they put Mariana up for the Real Madrid press conference and that she would,
Mm.
because I was really keen to sort of get stuck in and as you do as a journalist, try and get some of those quotes out about maybe her dislike of Real Madrid and Alessia Russo gave me a little bit in the end, but yeah, great to see. And it's something I heard Joe Hart speak about it on the radio a few weeks ago. Actually, how we maybe don't appreciate just how difficult it is for players to come to a different country and have to learn the language. So yeah, not always easy for Mariana and the likes who've only been here basically a few months. So yeah, good to see some interesting insight from the press conference. As I say, we'll be there. And we'll be across the news as well. I guess the big news to look out for this week is whether Daphne Van Domselaar makes the second leg in Lyon. I know Arsenal train tomorrow, so I'll be keeping an eye on if she trains or if it's maybe a session too early. I mean, it's not a make or break factor in the tie, is it? But you feel Van Domselaar and Zinsberger, perhaps the gap is there between them now, where it is a massive mental boost, I think, for Arsenal if they were to have Van Domselaar back available.
I think definitely, and I think it's not just kind of in respect of what each of them can and can't save, because there was just some really good strikes from Leon on the weekend that, he just had to be in the right place. But it's also about the kind of in during the game. I just personally watching, and I presume the players feel quite similar. Just playing back to the goalkeeper, it just feels a lot more relaxed and comfortable when it's Van Domselaar in goal because she's so good with her feet. Distribution is very pinpoint, and she's able to react quickly and still get the ball in the right place. Whereas I felt on the weekend, even though I did feel actually, I don't know if this will be an unpopular opinion, but I did think it was one of Zinsberger's better performances this season, despite the fact that it was a loss, because I felt she had two saves in the injury time at the end, and I think she did look a bit more confident, which was good to see. But it just feels a little bit rushed, and she often will put it out, and I even when the ball's being passed back, I just worry that something's going to go wrong. And I think possibly it's nice to have some have the confidence and the kind of faith starting from the back of the pitch, and that kind of seems to happen a bit more with Van Domselaar in there. But as I said, Manu is a great option for a number two goalkeeper, and I'm glad that the fans got behind her on Saturday and that she was able to have a couple of saves and have a couple of good moments, because if she is going to play on in the away leg on Sunday, it's nice that she's got that kind of behind her going into that, I'd say.
Yeah, I was watching and on DAZN on my way back down from the Lake District to the back of the car, and I think certainly the commentary team were maybe a little critical of
Mm,
Zinsberger, and they talked about how she's one to parry the ball out a lot of the time rather than claiming it. And I think actually when we talk about maybe the mental edge provided by Van Domselaar, you look at some of the long range efforts Leon have had. De
mm,
Mornay's is incredible. It's an incredible feat to look up from that range on the left hand side. See Zinsberger, she's on the edge of her 6 yard box. She's not miles off her line by any stretch of the imagination. And to so nearly score, Lindsay Heaps goes for goal from a free kick that was quite a way out, and maybe you think if Van Domselaar's in goal, so again it can sort of contribute to the opposition as well. Van der Donk for me should score when quite
mm.
easily when Zinsberger palms that rebound away. That's quite a different game if that goes in. Lyon had those first half chances. They did have the chances maybe to put the game, not the tie, but put the game to bed maybe, or get a couple of goals before half time. I thought Arsenal were the better team certainly in the second half, but Lyon did have the chances, and it's probably a game you can really look at it from so many different perspectives. You could say Arsenal deserve to be level, deserve to get more of it, but you can also look at it going down the route of actually, if you're Lyon, maybe you should have come away with one or two more goals on the day.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Certainly in the first half, I sort of remember going in at half time and thinking we're lucky to only be down by, I think it was just 1-0 at the half time, and because they'd had such a kind of powerful first half, they'd come straight out of the blocks, and they'd that front three are just so dangerous. And I think it was, I just remember turning to sitting next to Jamie in the press box, and we just said this is a totally different level to Real Madrid. It just had, just the whole stakes had really upped, and the pace and everything and the skill. And so yeah, they think they were unfortunate not to score more in the first half. But as you said, we were better in the second half, but we couldn't convert the chances. So, did we deserve to have those goals when we were so off target for a lot of the shots? I thought it was, possibly Russo only just coming back from her injury that day might not have actually been 100% on form. I think she just was playing because we needed someone there, and we were actually all thinking this is possibly a game for Stina, and she did come on because she can get those balls over the top. She's quite physical, and that was needed in the box there. But I think Russo wasn't quite on her usual kind of prolific scoring form. Beth Mead was unlucky to miss her header as well, and Frida Marnham had a few chances too. But ultimately, if we can't get them in the back of the net, then then it doesn't make matter sort of what's going off target, does it? So yeah, I think it was tricky, but 2-1, compared to the Chelsea scoreline, I think looks quite nice now.
Yeah, those Marnham chances I hope don't prove costly because, we've
Mm.
seen what she can do, certainly in the Champions League and how good a player she is, but you've got to be better, I think, when you're in and around the penalty area. If you're playing in the number 10, you've got to be a better finisher than that in front of goal. And when I think of Frida Marnham, I think of a lot of goals sort of 20 yards out in and around the edge of the penalty area. You maybe don't associate her making those late runs in, certainly not scoring those headed goals. I think one of the commentators said, she's known for her headed goals, and I thought, well,
No.
can't picture off the top of my head. Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, so both sides having the chances, and it was a really good game of Champions League football, and it's still one that could go either way. Let's dissect the opening Lyon goal first. Now, as I said, I was in the back of the car and I said the second this ball was played through, she's a mile offside. And I was not worried for 1 second. And then it went to VAR and I thought, well, VAR will do its thing. Now, about 5 minutes later, they show the semi-automated offside, and goodness me, it is so tight. It is incredibly tight. But I thought on first viewing, Diani is a mile offside. I know the defense are trained to play to the whistle, especially with VAR. You have to do that even more so. Do you think there was a tiny part of them that switched off for 1 second? Because she did look a long way offside. Now, I know Emily Fox should be pushed up a little bit more, but if you're Steph Catley, I mean, looking at the replays again from this camera angle, she looks so far offside, and I know she's not. But the fault lies with the Arsenal fence, doesn't it? But there's a part of me that thinks maybe they can't be forgiven, but you wouldn't be surprised if they just for that half a second, if they thought she's offside here, and you look towards the assistant referee, and with Leon's pace, you're going to get punished for that.
Yeah, and it did look offside from where I was sitting as well, but obviously, VAR did its thing in it, and it apparently wasn't. But yeah, I sort of think in the replays, I think the Arsenal players do look like they, for a second, think, oh, that's offside, and they kind of stop.
Mm.
But unfortunately, those front three they were faster than Catley and Williamson. Emily Fox had a little bit more pace and was able to win a couple more 50-50s than the other two. But unless Catley and Williamson were starting deeper than those forward players from Lyon were, then there wasn't a chance. They were always chasing, and they were outpaced quite a lot during the game, which was just quite unrelaxing to watch. And then you're sort of just waiting and hoping that the shot isn't on target and it's not going to go in. And quite a few times it was lucky. There was lucky blocks when the rest of the team managed to catch up, but yeah, they were so pacey, and I think it did look like it was offside, and unfortunately it wasn't, and that was quite a long VAR decision that it took a while to kind of decide that one, and it was a real shame because I think that did put a pin in the atmosphere at the Emirates, and it did put a pin in the kind of energy of the Arsenal players because I think they thought they'd got away with it, and then they had to kind of carry on 1-0 down.
Yeah, I've watched the replay again just now, and Catley is definitely there's a snap of the head towards the assistant as she runs back. And look, we've said this I think after the West Ham game and a couple of times this season. As much as Rennie Slagers can do with this team, probably their personnel wise, they need to be taken to a new level in the summer. And I think this game is an example of that. And what Arsenal lack maybe compared to this sort of Lyon side that there's that experience in there. Obviously, Wendy Renard was on the bench, but they're a little bit new look compared to some of the Lyon sides you associate with winning so many of these Champions League titles. They brought in these players. The front three, we knew exactly what we were going to get. It was going to be pacing behind. Liberty Simons wrote a really good preview in the print edition. And also talking, as I mentioned earlier, about how Lyon loves to shoot from range and how you can't give them sort of any space in and around the penalty area. And a couple of people have written that as well. But ultimately, this was always going to be a struggle for an Arsenal defence that unfortunately aren't getting any younger and have shown in probably less caliber WSL games against the likes of West Ham and Liverpool that in a foot race they can be beaten. And against Demorne, Diani and Chewinga, who, let's not forget, had some incredible service. I mean, Lindsay Heaps, her role in both goals is outstanding. The assist for the first goal is really well played. The midfield had too much time to pick those passes, and then once those front three were through, they just couldn't be stopped. So there's significant issues I think that Arsenal need to address before this second leg.
Yeah, I think so. And then Renee kind of said that in her press conference afterwards that they knew what they sort of were prepared and they knew what they were getting themselves into with this pacey front three. But that they'll definitely have to make some adjustments. So I think they probably thought they knew what they were going to face, but actually it was a lot quicker and a lot more different to how they'd kind of practiced for. And I think that those Santander and Steph Catley they should be staying deep if they're going to lose these foot races with these front players, because they both like to go up and get involved and play a bit higher. But actually, if you then can't get back for the counter attack, that's something that needs addressing. And perhaps going into the second leg might be something that's changed. But I I thought that there was a sort of problem in the midfield for us on Saturday, and I was thinking the whole way through, I just wish they'd bring Leah Valti on, because I think what we really needed was someone who could keep hold of the ball in the midfield, because we kept losing it. Mariona was great, but she was everywhere, as she does, kind of running all over the pitch. And I think we needed that kind of stable midfielder that Leo Valti's so good at, who can just kind of stick the ball to her foot and run through people and keep it controlled. And I think that would have made a real difference. But we didn't see that until a bit later on in the game.
Yeah, I think you make a good point because I think the defense backed off as well. I think we saw certainly for the rest of the first half, less so in the second, actually, you could sort of see the fear in their eyes of when Lyon turned the ball over, ran over the halfway line, actually looking to drop off. And as you say, they probably were playing a little bit too high, and it's something that they might adjust. But also, you don't want to invite this Lyon side who like to shoot on sight, who like to shoot from range onto you. So, but look, when you're in the Champions League semi-finals, I touched cheekily about Chelsea and the in the intro, but you are going to face quality from all over the pitch, and you are going to come up against teams where you look at them and think there are not many weaknesses to exploit here. And the fact that Arsenal are still in the game, an Arsenal team, let's not forget, who changed their manager earlier in the season, who are quite a distance away from Chelsea still, at the top of the WSL, who, are the only British team to win the Champions League, but haven't won the WSL for a while. We know they're not on the level of a Lyon or of a Barcelona. So the fact they're still in the tie, they're in with a chance going to France, against a team that have won so many Champions Leagues. You bring on someone like Ada Hegerberg, after Arsenal equalise, she plays an important role in the equaliser. Six-time Champions League winner. Arsenal don't have that pedigree, maybe with the exception of a Mariona Caldente, in their squad, and that experience of winning these semi-finals and getting over the line in these big games. And again, that's where I think it comes back to in the summer when Rene Slager says to Arsenal's team, this is who we want. This squad does need a shake-up. It needs a bit of a rebuild because, we all know that Arsenal need to be competing more with Chelsea. I think we all knew that the Champions League would be the best bet for silverware this season, but no one is expecting Arsenal to win the Champions League. Semi-finals are probably a minimum. If you get to the final, fantastic, but you're going to have to beat the best, and Lyon are right up there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it kind of highlighted how important experience is, as you said, because the way that Lyon and Barcelona played this weekend, they just went in there with a lot more confidence and a lot more kind of assurance that they knew what they were doing, because they've been in these situations time and time again. And I mean, even Chelsea have had a bit more experience in the last couple of years, but even they were taken apart by Barcelona, and I think everyone thought that was going to be a lot closer. But these experienced teams just come in and they really show what they're about, and it was kind of obvious the level that Lyon had and the experience and the kind of skills and talent on the pitch on Saturday. And it was quite scary because I felt like, we had that penalty and they just scored so quickly afterwards, and it just showed that they was able to just turn it around and, come back against an Arsenal team who were sort of a bit disorganized and took a while to kind of really get into it. They were better in the second half, but yeah, I just think very threatening from Lyon, and I worry about what they can do at home next weekend.
Hmm. Well, let's look at the positives. Arsenal, for me, you can win penalties or you're gifted penalties. We've just watched Sheffield United, Burnley, where Burnley were very much gifted a penalty to win that and get promotion back to the Premier League. I mean, I have no idea what the VAR check was for. You were in the ground, and I remember covering the Wolfsburg second leg. And you get so in the Emirates, unlike a lot of grounds, you have a little monitor which has sort of live action of the TV feeds, which is really helpful when you're covering the game and you can look at the replays. But when UEFA are in charge and it's a VAR review, you see exactly what's on the big screen. You don't have any of that insight. I don't know if that was the same for you, Izzy, but did you have any idea at first what that penalty was given for?
No, really didn't have any idea. We thought it was a handball because we couldn't really think about what else it could have been. Saw Williamson go down and she was kind of redoing her hair, which we thought maybe she's, hit her head or she's just kind of been bumbled around a bit. But yeah, we weren't aware. It didn't come up on the screen, and then obviously the big screen VAR check. But actually, I think those small screens actually just had the TV feed, so we didn't even get the replay too many times. Or luckily, we were sitting in front of some commentators. I think they were doing some radio, so they were kind of talking through it a bit more, and they had a better idea of what was going on. So we then knew, but it felt like a bit of a saving grace for Arsenal because they had so many attempts on goal, and actually to get one from a penalty was what was deserved in that moment, I think, because from all of that build up play to actually get us on the score sheet was good, and it was a very good penalty from Mariona. I thought Chloe Kelly was going to take it at first. We were debating in the press box about who was going to step up, and Chloe Kelly was holding the ball, and well, that would have been quite exciting. And almost thought Mariona's probably taken quite a few penalties against this Lyon side, so maybe that'd be more predictable. But then she stepped up and sauced it home, so that was a really good moment and brought the atmosphere back into the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, Christiana Endler again is a multiple time Champions League winner and one of the better goalies in the world, isn't she? And I just think ever since I've covered Arsenal women, they never fill me with confidence from the penalty spot. I've seen too many go begging, and Mariona hit the post away to Liverpool. I remember in December she did score against West Ham in that comeback. So when I reminded myself of that, I was a little more confident. But just the composure, we talk about having to have this experience on the big stage in these Champions League semi-finals, big crowd, semi-final, as you say, against a team she's played a lot and has played against in Champions League finals. It's such a good penalty. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah, it was excellent. It was went really, really silent. You could hear a pin drop in the stadium. And I think, as you said, people haven't got that confidence in Arsenal in scoring these penalties. And I think everyone was kind of thinking this could go either way, or as a penalty can, but like it just felt like it's either going to be missed or it's going to be saved. Not that that's anything to do with Mariona and her ability. It's just the kind of way it's gone for Arsenal in a lot of these penalty moments. But yeah, it was fantastic, and I think after all the kind of build up play, the atmosphere then was really loud, which was a shame that Lyon then scored so quickly afterwards because it really kind of put another pin into it. But it was good to see so many people out there and celebrating that moment. And Susie's photos of the players' celebrations for the penalty were some of my favourites from that day. They were really, really cool.
Yeah, fantastic work. Just a shame it was a 12:30 kickoff, in all
Yeah.
honesty. I just think you are sacrificing a few numbers of fans, home and away fans, when you
Yeah.
schedule a Champions League semi-final at that time on a Saturday. Just think it's ridiculous that deserves an evening kickoff, which we'll obviously have over in Lyon. I don't understand it, especially if the Chelsea game being the following day. Just didn't make any sense to me. But there you go. As you say, Hegerberg sneaks on, after the penalty. And it's a lovely Lyon move. It really is. Zamorne picked the finishing touch, and when you play against the top sides, you get punished. I think my criticism perhaps would be how easily Williamson gets sucked out to deal with Hegerberg, who then just lays the ball off. Again, Heaps has loads of space, loads of time in midfield to play that pass, but Lyon they play like clockwork. Once the ball goes forward from Heaps, it's such a nice move. People have criticised Zinsberger, but I think any one-on-one, with such a neat flowing move, it's really hard to pull off that save. I'm not sure Van Domselaar does either. And from there, probably me being the pessimist I am when watching Arsenal, it was a case of don't concede a third. Keep yourself in the game. We saw what happened away to Real Madrid when you think 1-0 probably going to be fine. 2-0, you give them a real chance. I think chasing 3-1 to Lyon, you're almost out of the game. But I know Arsenal did look to create and they were positive late on, but actually 2-1 is not the end of the world.
No, I think that was definitely the feeling in the stadium. The kind of defensive blocks of Lyon's late attempts were getting just as much cheers from the crowd as the waves of attack from Arsenal were, because it was definitely the feeling that, yeah, as you said, 3-1 is a lot more of a difficult kind of scoreline to turn around, especially after having witnessed kind of 80 minutes of Lyon playing and how good they are. So yeah, we were very lucky. Zinsberger coming in with two saves, not able to kind of fully clear it, but able to keep it out of the goal, which was the main thing. And they didn't score, so that was good. But yeah, they didn't stop until the last minute. And as you said, just we couldn't believe how kind of stacked they were on the pitch. And then I remember just seeing Hegerberg getting up to come on, and it was just I was just thinking this is ridiculous that she's on the bench and she's going to come on with all her experience. And then she did, yeah, obviously caused that second goal. But yeah, I think 2-1. It's not the end of the world. We're only one down. We were two down to Madrid, but obviously it's a different caliber of opponent. But if we're on form and it's a good day and we play like we did in that quarterfinal second leg against Madrid, then I think anything could happen. But if we play as we did on Saturday, on sort of the average performance, and I don't know how positive I feel going into Sunday.
Yeah, Renee Slager saying Lyon are happy with the 2-1 here and they will do everything they can to protect that lead. So it's going to be a very difficult game, but we're going to go there and believe that we can do something. And Beth Mead saying, saying stuff to similar effect, you have to. We know Arsenal won their 5-1 last time. It is a different scenario. I think probably the biggest worry for me is the fact you're chasing a game against such a good counter-attacking side, such a pacey side. As we say, they've got threats all over the pitch. That probably, it includes the defenders as well. Be interesting to see whether Wendy Renard starts, if she's fit enough to start, and that Arsenal conundrum as well. Luckily, no midweek game. Lyon do play Nantes, I think, in 2 days' time on Wednesdays, but you'd expect them to make a whole host of changes really before they're running away with the league title, unbeaten in the league, very good at home. We know what the task is now, but Arsenal, as you say, have made a lot of comebacks this season. It's just the downside is they've got to go away for this one because the Emirates has been such a fortress and it played such a massive role against Real Madrid. Now you go to the belly of the beast, really. Does the 5-1 win there play any part apart from a nice psychological boost, I guess, a little boost in the back of the mind?
Yeah, I wrote about this because Renee mentioned it, but I think it is just a psychological boost. But I think everyone's very aware that that was a totally different Lyon side that was faced in that game, and yeah, 5-1 isn't going to be an abnormal scoreline in a situation like this. I mean, we could turn it around and make it 5-1 on 5-2 on aggregate if we really went for it. But I think yeah, that was a different time, and it's nice to know that Arsenal have had these big wins away and they've been able to do that and convert those chances. So you never know. I'm not sure how many tickets have been sold for that game or how many Lyon fans are going to be there creating that atmosphere for their team. So, and I presume there'll be lots of travelling Arsenal fans, so that could make a difference. And Caitlin Ford saying after the game that they always hear the Arsenal fans over the home fans anyway when they go away. So that's nice, and hopefully there can be some good support created there. But yeah, I don't know. I think that is just a psychological boost, really. But I think when they all it's stripped down to it, it's not much. It doesn't make much difference. Obviously, Joe Montemurro knows the Arsenal team quite well as well, and I know it's been a while since he was there. But as we've said on one of these podcasts before, there's still 7 or 8 players from when he was there in this Arsenal team, and a lot of them are still starting. So he does understand what's going on, and he mentored Renee Slegers, so he'll know what's going on in her mind as well. So I think there is a slight tactical advantage for them also.
Yeah, very interesting to see. I've probably got it as about 75-25 in Lyon's favour. I don't know if you'd be any kinder towards Arsenal, and that's maybe optimistic my end as well. But like I say, the important thing is that Arsenal are still in the game. And we said before the Real Madrid game, Arsenal are very good at scoring quick fire goals. If you get 2 quick fire goals against Lyon, suddenly you're looking at Champions League semi-final. So got to be optimistic. How optimistic I am when I'm awoken at 4:30 in the morning for my early flight to Lyon, which I'm told is full of Arsenal fans from Luton Airport on Sunday morning, including Daisy, who we send our best wishes to. She's ill today. She was going to join us, but is ill today. And I've said to her, just make sure you're on that flight to Lyon on Sunday. Susie's going to be out there as well, so we'll have our usual Gooner Fanzine coverage, and I'll make sure to take a few copies out, try and get to the pre-match meetup as well. So if you'd like one, then come and take them off my hands, and we'll also have them on sale. Final game of the season. Izzy, you'll be watching on from home. And then it's just the matter of sealing Champions League football again for another season, isn't it, in the WSL? But the important thing is that Arsenal, after the start to the season they had, they go to Lyon with hope and they go to Lyon with a chance in the Champions League semi-final.
Yeah, definitely. And I think at the start of the season, when it was kind of all kicking off with Jonas Eidevall leaving and having Renee Slegers as the interim manager, I think if you told Arsenal and the rest of the Arsenal fans this at the time, that we'd been a Champions League semi-final, only 2-1 down to Lyon, and sort of this only 3 points behind Chelsea, they've got a game in hand, but in the WSL, then I think anyone would have bitten your arm off for that. So yeah, I think it's been okay. Sad to have not won any kind of domestic silverware, but we're still in this, and you never know, miracles happen in football. So this could be a great weekend, and it doesn't need a miracle. We're only 1-0 down. It's just this Lyon side are particularly strong, and they're looking particularly hungry for the final this year. So yeah, sadly, I will be sad to not be there, but happy that I was at the home leg, and I'll be cheering on from home with my Arsenal
Yeah.
scarves in tow. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Arsenal need the performance of the season and their best performance under Rene Slagers, but I think we know they're capable of it, and that is very much the exciting thing. So yeah, to those of you on my flight Sunday morning, I'll see you at Luton Airport. I'll see plenty of you in Lyon. Look out for the usual coverage, and as I say, myself and Leif will be at London Colney on Friday as well. Open training is in the morning, and then we'll hear from Rennie Slagers and an Arsenal player, as is mandated by UEFA, which is great. You get that extra bit of content. That'll be at 2:30 p.m. on Friday afternoon.